I don't really know where I was going with that. It was just so much fun. I just kept pumping her for information, and well, we got Dilly's number anyway. We can give him a call later on, and you know, you give out somebody's home phone number or their cell phone number to a complete stranger just because they ask you to. She had some spirit, and she was able to keep herself from giving out the Social Security number, but people are able to do things like that very easily if convinced. Many's the time, well, not many's the time, but at least a few times, I've done things like in college, calling students and saying, can you give us your student ID number? Not the Social Security number, student ID number. It's the same number. And if you ask somebody for their Social Security number, they'll you know, a flag goes up. And, but student ID, yeah, okay, that sounds official. And they don't think that it's the same number in the first place. Well, that was actually in the Bronx. I don't know why the West Coast would be any different than that.
Because they might still be open and have a manager there before too late.
Okay, well, somebody tell a quick story, and I'll find something on the West Coast.
It's also easier to social engineer people that.
Not calling him.
It's also easier to social engineer people that there's not a language barrier with. So I would have given up a lot sooner.
Was that a language barrier or just an attitude barrier?
Speaking of language barriers, this is sort of a language barrier trick that people have been using, albeit for a lot of fraudulent purposes, is most companies maintain a special phone line for hearing impaired callers. So you can use a TDD or a TTY, which you can, there's some computer software you can use that'll emulate a TDD or a TTY, or you can buy them like at flea markets for like $20. Look, I did a talk about this at the First Hope. They're like a little keyboard and an acoustic coupler and this little alphanumeric display, and it sends the like radio teletype songs, signals like anyway. So you can call a corporate office that has their TDD, TTDIY number, and you'll directly reach a person, and they kind of feel sorry for you because you have an impairment. And you can ask them almost anything, and they will. You get away with any suspicious inflection in your voice is completely eliminated. But it's sort of like it's kind of like typing back and forth, in a chat room or something. But you're using a TTY, so that's one method I've used to contact companies and get them to do things that you could not possibly get them to do by talking to the normal frontline people that just use the spoken voice. So just another trick.
I have a comment.
The microphone too.
Does it work? Doesn't work. Oh. Okay. If you want to get someone's Social Security number through influence tactics, the best way to do it is what they call the scarcity behavior principle, and that is where you frame the question where the target, if they don't comply with the request, they're going to lose something. So if Eric wanted to get the target Social Security number, it would have been better to say that he is with payroll with BP and there's been a problem processing the payroll check, and unless she gives out the Social Security number, she will not get paid, thereby suffering a loss. And that is a strong influence tactic for the target to comply with the request so they don't suffer the loss.
Good point.
And people will comply more with doing an action to avoid a loss than to actually realize a gain. There's been some social studies on this topic, and a guy named Robert Cialdini, who wrote a book, Influence, has covered this if you're interested.
All right, I'm following the advice of people here. I'm going to call something on the West Coast. Seattle? Is that okay?
Yeah,
like Seattle, all right? I haven't called this yet, so we don't know for sure it's open, but let's try it.
I think it's a fax machine, or we just went to a different country.
Tokyo, man. Sounds like a Tokyo ring.
Yeah, this isn't working.
You're really striking out today. It's not his fault. He's just reaching bad numbers.
Did it disconnect? Oh, bad number, you say?
Is that a modem tone?
Yeah, it's a
No,
fax.
it's a fax machine.
Yeah.
Just fax your question.
All right, well, just because they're on the West Coast doesn't mean they're open either. What I can do is call some while somebody else tells a story and simply call that one back. Anyone else have any other? You have a story? Another story?
You want another one?
Yeah, another story from Kevin Mitnick.
I'm trying to think. Oh, here's a good one. My autobiography is being published next year by Little Brown, and this is a story I haven't told, but that's going to be in the book. So it's kind of like a view into some of the social engineering antics I did. Well, remember I hacked Motorola, I got the source code. But one thing I was lacking was the compiler to actually compile the code. So my next target was this company called Intrametrics, which was based out of Massachusetts. And I was able to get into Intrametrics, and it was using a technical exploit to get into their actual network. And so the object was to look at their network, look at where their workstations and servers were to actually find the source code product releases for the 68 HC11 chip that was in the phone itself. So I looked around, and the first thing I did was go to the domain and look at the etc aliases file, because what they do is they, back in those days, they would actually have departments and individuals, and you can easily work out who had access to information. And through the aliases file, I found an engineering group and a list of engineers, really easy. And then so their workstations were compromised, and the problem was I couldn't find the compiler. I couldn't find the source code, I couldn't find the binaries that were released to the market, but I did find a script. And the script in one of the engineers' directories was called make product. Well, actually make prod, and actually it had the locations on the network where all the, to build the source code and where their product releases were. And when I went to those machines, nothing was there. So now it was time for a little bit of social engineering. So in the aliases file, I found their sales groups, and one of their sales offices was in Washington, D.C., and I already knew who the engineers were. So I called up one of the lead engineers, this guy named Marty, and I said I was David Burton over in the Washington, D.C. office. I'm a sales engineer. The first thing he asked me, he goes, what office are you in? I tell him the office. He asked me who I work for. I told him who I work for. And then he goes, I told him the problem. I said, I have a sales meeting tomorrow. I have an older version of the 68 HC11 compiler, and I want to show the potential client the newest release. And he goes, well, he goes, can you keep a secret? Huh? I go, of course I can keep a secret. He goes, listen, he goes, the reason you can't find anything is we got a call from the FBI. What? Yeah, we got a call from the FBI in Los Angeles. Apparently this super hacker is going to break into our systems to get our compiler because he hacked into Motorola, and the FBI said that was his next logical step. So I told Marty, I said, you have to be kidding. I mean, come on, I really don't have time to joke around. I mean, really, why isn't the code out there? And he goes, no, seriously. He goes, this guy hacked into the CIA. He got level 3 access. I mean, there's a manhunt for this guy. And I go, what's this guy's name? He goes, I have no idea. I said, wow. I go, I didn't hear anything about it. I said, but